Hello, my name is Eric Hipple, and I played 10 years with the Detroit Lions as a quarterback. So, in fact, I wrote a book. It was called Real Men Do Cry, and I was just joking about it because when I put it out, this was like 2007. I had my friends say, "Wow, playing for the Lions was that bad? Yeah, Real Men Do Cry." So, no, that's not what it's about. And unfortunately, it's about something else. But growing up, I was, one of those sensitive kids myself, and there seems to be something around that, right? Because the empathy and stuff, you take on a lot more than you probably even handle yourself. And so I was one of those kids, but and we had mental health in our families. In our family, my mom suffered from depression. Would be, my dad would say she's not coming out of her room. She's having one of her spells. We didn't know what that meant. Just I knew I was going to see mom for a few days. And then when I finally got to college, and I missed a whole quarter in college. Didn't know why, I just couldn't get out of bed. Fortunately, I got my grades back up, so I was still eligible to play, and then I got drafted by the Detroit Lions. So I played 10 years with the Detroit Lions, and when I left the game then, there's a lot of transitional issues. So I want you to remember that. Transitional things are big. So the identity that I had as a football player from 9 years old until 32 years old, all of a sudden, I have no idea who I am when I left the game. All I know is I started a business and things were going pretty well, it seemed like, but then that thing hit me and I kind of took a dive. And to the point where I ended up jumping out of a car that was going 75 miles an hour. My wife was driving it. And we were going to the airport, and I was going to leave on a business trip. And I just felt like I couldn't do it. So, I wrote a note, "I'm sorry, I love you," and I handed it to my wife. And she looked at it and looked at me, and I jumped out of the car. We were going 75 miles an hour. Luckily, I didn't get hit by any other cars. Pretty road rash on the side. I woke up in the hospital and already did surgery. And the psychiatrist is sitting there talking to me. My mom and dad had been flown in, and my wife, and they're talking about, we can get him and do some treatment, and that's not going to happen. That's what stigma was, that strong way back when, and in the profession I was in. No, that's not going to happen. And so I never learned anything. All right, so I kept going, forward, put my blinders back on, and just kept on going. Well, so the thing is, my 15-year-old son started exhibiting some of the same things that I had. But to me, it was like, oh, he's fine. He'll be okay. Took him to the doctor a bunch of times as well. But eventually he succumbed to his illness, and so he died by suicide when he was 15 years old. And I remember after that happened, and I was in shock, obviously, as we go through that. But what I remember is realizing, at one point in time, I wanted to die because I fit the model of Thomas Joiner's model, which is 3 things have to happen for suicide. One is a person feels like a burden, and so when that burdensome feeling, like they feel like they're falling behind, they can't keep up, or they're just letting everybody down, and they start to isolate. And so that isolation is another big piece of that, which is, I withdraw, I might, pull back in my room, but it could also be in a crowd, of people, but still feel alone and isolated because I feel like I'm the only one going through this, and everybody else looks like they're doing great. And then the third part of that is just the ability to override self-preservation, and that's a huge deal. We leave that one on the floor, but all we have to do to stop suicide is stop those other 2 things. So here I was going through, and I thought, when I jumped out of the car, that people would be better off without me. But after looking at my son, when he's in the morgue, I realized how painful it is that people are left behind, and so I took that one off the table. I'll never think that way again. But how do we do that? How do we fix what's going on? How can we educate? And I do have a couple different programs I've been associated with. One is called Be Nice. It's notice, invite, challenge, and empower. And like I said, we notice what is good and right about somebody, because if we're paying attention, that also means that when things aren't their new normal behavior, we'll recognize it. And we can invite ourselves into a conversation. We can challenge the stigma, we can challenge the status quo, and then the E stands for empowerment. Making ourselves so we can be a little bit more stronger and also more resilient. But there's something here, and you talk about society and what's going on in the world and craziness right now. I will tell you right now, if we would have had this meeting back, Jeff died in 2000. Back then, there's hardly anybody would be here. So you're already making a great stride towards that. So I thank you for being here, just for that reason. But I'll run fast. Okay,
You're doing great.
All right. So one of the things I ended up doing was going around, and I worked for the University of Michigan Depression Center for 10 years, And I also did stuff with the military, flew around to all the bases, do suicide prevention work with them. And one of the things that was really important to military was just to make sure that, the ship was safe, guys who take care of themselves, and, buddy programs and all that, is there's 5 things that really can make us, under self-control, or stress control. And those 5 things happen to be, predictability. If we know where we're supposed to be, so we have calendars, I know where I'm supposed to go, so I don't worry about it, right? The controllability, the ability to be in control of the situation. Well, there's a lot of things we can't control, right? But we do have drills for them, so when they do happen, we'll know what to do. So controllability is a big piece of that. And then, trust, feeling safe in a safe environment, relationships, being connected to other people, and then hope, or actually purpose, right? So what am I here for? What am I doing? Those 5 things are really important. So if you think what's going on right now, and you think about, a few years ago, with COVID, all 5 of those things were ripped away from us. So you had students, you had our kids, and even us were going through without those 5 things that could make us feel, in control and safe, and all the things that we have. They're ripped out. So trying to replace those things, or making sure if that's what those things are missing, to work on that. It's also having a school environment that has that trust and that purpose and everything else that goes along with it. Because I'll tell you right now, when I think of schools, in my experience, was a good one, had some bad times too, but was a good one. But I also, I would see the other kids too, the ones that weren't having a great time at school. And I try to bend over backwards and talk to them and whatnot, and try to be part of their life as well, suck them into ours. But the truth is, if you're not having a great time at school, or you're not having a good time at all, or not even that, you're having a miserable time, and you have to go, that's almost like prison. I have to go there, I can't get out of it, and I'm facing all these things, and I have to go. And so, what can we do to make everybody's experience a little bit lighter, and a little bit more proactive, and reach out and notice when somebody is struggling, and try to get there early enough. But have our students do that as well. It's a student-driven program, and have our students, be involved in it, because I really believe that the ownership and having something of yourself and your empowerment and stuff, part of that is to do that for each other. And so community does make a big difference. And last thing, sorry. So my son died at 15. My daughter was 7 years old in the next room when it happened. So in our grief, we didn't really pay much attention to that. It was, I was dealing with my stuff, and I destructive behavior for a year, just terrible, right? And I wasn't concerned about anything else. It's just, how to get through this. So so my daughter, when she turned 15, all the stuff came back, as trauma will. Started getting night terrors and everything else. Her grades started slipping down. She started struggling. But it was 2 friends of hers that came to her and said, if you don't tell your parents what's going on, we're going to tell them for you. And so she came to us and showed us where she'd been cutting and self-harm, and started talking about what she was going through. So she ended up getting therapy, took her trauma, CBT, trauma focused. And so she went to that therapy, she got her grades back up, she ended up graduating from Eastern Michigan, then she went and got her master's, and she's a complex trauma therapist today. So 2 different kids from the same family have completely different outcomes because she had 2 friends that got involved. And so thank you, and I'm glad I'm here. Thank you.